Hello guys, welcome to your 18th lesson in this VueJS course. And in this lesson, we're going to be looking at lifecycle hooks, which is a very important aspect you need to understand as a Vue developer. Now, if you've ever worked with maybe a framework or a library such as React, you get to a particular stage, maybe when using class-based components, you could see something such as components did mount, components will mount, component did update, and all of that jazz. And when making use of maybe functional components also, we have hooks such as the use effects hook and the use layout hooks, where you can also put in various dependencies and they run based on these. So all of these are very important because it actually helps in monitoring and running some particular functions based on some stages of your components. Now let's think of it this way. Every living organism, for example, have various stages. Okay, let's say we take something such as butterfly. We have the caterpillar, we have the pupa, I think, and we have those stages. Now these are basically different cycles of that particular organism's life. Now same way when it comes to Vue.js components, we have different stages, in its a component's life, and which is called a life cycle. We have various stages, and we're going to be looking at everything. So basically, quick question though, what are life cycle hooks? Before we understand that, let's look at some quick concepts first. Now, a Vue.js component can go through various phases. Now, there are 4 phases in total. The first one is the creation stage, where the component is created. We have the mounting stage, where the component is taken and it's actually mounted into the DOM, and displayed or rendered. And we have the updating stage, where the component goes through and updates maybe a particular data changes and all of that. And then we have the unmounting phase, where that application is removed from the DOM and then later maybe destroyed. Now Vue.js allows us to tap into various aspects of these phases with what we call lifecycle hooks, and that is where we can run different code. We can do some pretty amazing stuff. Now let's look at the lifecycle hooks that we have. We have in the creation phase, I remember I told you there are 4 phases. We have things such as before created and created. Then in the mounting phase, we have before mounting and we have mounted. And in the updating stage, we have before updated and updated. And in the unmounting phase, we have, you guessed it, before unmount and unmounted. And then we have others such as error captured, render tracked, render triggered, activated, deactivated, server prefetch. Now most of these here, such as error capture, etc., you wouldn't make use of it much, but the ones that you make use of is maybe created, mounted, updated, before unmount or unmounted. So let's take a quick look at the Vue.js documentation and some of the things they have to say on that. So there's a nifty diagram here which I actually wanted to show you on the documentation website. We can see the renderer encounters components. This basically shows the life cycle of a component. And then the setup function runs first before anything in the composition API, which we'll get to much later on in this course. And then we have the before create, and basically we have the created. As precompiled templates, is the template has it been precompiled? No, it's going to compile it, and if yes, it has been precompiled, then it's going to this is where we can run the before months hook. Now all of these red things you see here, they are basically the lifecycle hook. I think I prefer the dark mode. So we have the before mount. Now when the initial render and the DOM insertion, the DOM nodes has been created, then we have the mounted, and then it actually gets mounted when data changes, before update and updated, and then before mount, before unmount, and then unmounted, and then before it actually gets unmounted. Now there are some pretty interesting things you should take note. Now when you before created, this is when the instance of that particular component at this stage here, before the instance is initialized. Okay, before at this particular stage, you should know that the component does not, or the hook does not have access to any of the data at all, any data or template. Now when we come to the created hook, okay, so the instance has finished processing all state related options. That is, it has access to data. Okay, we have access to reactive data, we have access to computer properties, methods, watchers at this particular stage. Now we have the before mount. Okay, the before mount, okay, the component has finished setting up the state, but no DOM nodes have been created yet. Okay, and then we have mounted. This is when, okay, all the component has full access to the DOM nodes, the templates, and all of that. Okay, and then we have the updated. Whenever there is an update, okay, before it actually makes that update, and then we have the updated when the update is actually made, and we have the before unmounted. Before unmount, the this particular hook is called right before the component instance is unmounted, okay, away from the DOM. And we have the unmounted itself. This is called right after the component has been unmounted. Now a very good thing, or a more common thing, is you can run your, maybe you want to fetch data from an API. It is advisable to do that right here in created or maybe mounted. Okay, so the two differences between the two is, when it comes to created, you have access to the data, but you don't have access to the template, you don't have access to any of the DOM nodes. But that is usually fine, because when running a synchronous task, you're fetching from an API and all of that stuff, you basically don't really, all you're dealing with is with data. Maybe you have a state, or let's say a state inside of your component, or let's say a global state. You can quickly update that state before the up component is even mounted. And another thing you can do is you can actually run it when it's mounted. Okay, but these life cycle are actually very important to know at what stage, okay, what to do, and what you have access to and what you don't have access to. So without any further ado, let's quickly get into our code and let's see some examples. Okay, so right here I have this particular app which I cleaned up from the last lesson, and if we should come here, we can see it right here. Okay, so everything right here still works. Okay, and let's refresh. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to call the lifecycle hooks, and they are very simple. And after these data, all you just have to do is you can say before create. Okay, and basically this is a lifecycle hook right here, and I can say console.log component is about to be created. All right, so let's call the created, then we have created. All right, then we can say console.log, and I'm going to say component um created. All right, so the next one is we have on before mount. Okay, before mount, and then we can say console.log about to mount. And all right, the next one is mounted, and then we can do something like console.log mounted, and then we can say before update. Okay, before update, and we can just do this console.log. Okay, console.log about to be updated. Okay, and then updated hook can be called like so, and then console.log component updated. And I think we have two left, right? Yeah, I know. Okay, so the last two is before on mount, and we can just say, let me just copy this to make our life easier, and we can say about to on mount, and then we can say duplicate this, and then call the unmounted hook. Okay, we can call the unmounted, uh unmounted. Okay, so let's clear that. Let's clean that up. Okay, unmounted. Okay, let's add a comma here and we can say unmounted. All right, let's save that and let's come right into our app. All right, and basically I'm just going to refresh. And automatically out of the flag we should see something. Okay, component is about to be created, and then we see components created and then about to mount and mounted. Okay, we can see all of these right here, and that basically shows that okay, all of these runs automatically. Okay, before created, on mount, before mounted, and mounted. All right, that works. How about when we click on this to increase? Okay, but this is not updating for some reason. Okay, our component, our hook, which is before update and updated, aren't working. So let's take a look at why. Okay, I think I discovered why. Um, let's remove the components we had at the layout component, and I think that should work right now. Okay, and let's, okay, we can see it works. About to be updated, component updated. Whenever we click on this, also about to be updated and component updated. And if I should create a new component and okay, conditionally render and maybe toggle a button, we're going to say that is going to trigger the on mount and before on mount also. So that's that on life cycle hooks, and I'll see you in the next lesson.